Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to, if you're watching this right now, just know, trying to make sure that I got audio. That was an issue that I had. Just make sure that's coming through. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, I think we got the audio working now. Okay, so welcome to my channel, 3rd and 23. This is my inaugural video. Just a quick introduction. My name is Alex. I'm a big-time football fan. Always have been, both college and pro. One thing, if you're a big football fan like me, is you grew up on NCAA. Oops, let me get out of that. Is you grew up on preview magazines, right? You used to go to 7-Eleven or wherever, and you used to get preview magazines, and you wanted to see, who was going to be good this year, who's going to be the latest and greatest, who were going to be the top players, and so forth, right? And I've kind of, as I've grown, I kind of like, doing my own preview mag, so to speak, but my own predictions, and I used to like comparing them to the experts, or the so-called experts, I'll just say, that are out there, and see how well I've done, right? And then, while I'm not advocating gambling, and it's certainly all for entertainment, there's a gambling aspect to it as well, right? So these predictions are things that you could look at when you're looking at odds makers, when you're looking at futures. And then as I move forward with this stream, I'm going to be doing weekly pick'ems and parlays and so forth on what I think will happen. Again, all entertainment, right? I'll pick what I think is going to be the upset of the week and things like that. And if you like the content, I'm going to, you see my YouTube linked in the channel. Feel free to go to the YouTube and add comments on what you think would be some of the top picks that you would select or that week, or how do you think my predictions are wrong, or just anything you want to talk about, right? But so getting into it, I'm gonna try to do my entire preview tonight. We're gonna get through the 5 Power 5 conferences, and then what are gonna be my national predictions, and of course we'll talk Notre Dame as well. But so getting into it, you see we're starting out with the ACC. Oh yeah, please understand, I know this is my first stream, definitely got to work out the kinks, so just bear with me. But talking about the ACC, right? So I'm looking at as far as regular season, we're talking pre-conference championship game. I've got Florida State at the top. I mean, Florida State, I call them, you might want to start calling them Please Transfer Here University, right? Because, national publications and a lot of the media, they're going to talk about Ole Miss. There's a lot out there about Ole Miss, how they're building their team through the transfer portal, and it's kind of true. I'm not going to deny that. But because the SEC is so nationally recognized versus Florida State, who hasn't been nationally relevant in a long time, they kind of get ignored. Florida State has built that team through the transfer portal. I mean, we're talking about this without the transfer portal. This is a 3-win football team. Just call it what it is. But give them credit. Give them credit. They've hit on the portal, and they're not getting 3rd and 4th stringers from other teams who weren't getting PT. These guys are getting starters or guys in the 2 deep to come transfer to the school. Jordan Travis. Now, I know Jordan Travis was a backup, and he's developed in Florida State over the years. But he's developed into probably the best quarterback in that conference. He's perfect for that system. Coming off a big year, I expect him to have another big year. At running back, you have Trey Benson coming from Oregon. I mean, 1,000-yard back. I mean, he hit on that. He probably came to Florida State. He's part of the rotation at Oregon. He came to the Florida State locker room. He looked around the room. He was like, "Oh, I'm starting here." You know, so at receiver, Johnny Wilson is a monster. Destroyed teams last year. Now they just added Keon Coleman from Michigan State, who was developing into the #1 wideout out there. 6'4", 215, paired with Johnny Wilson. I mean, those guys are going to be a problem. Their whole defensive front is transfer portal. Their best linebacker, Tatum Bethune, transfer portal. Their best defensive back, Fentrell Cypress, transfer portal. He was all ACC at UVA last year. So you got to give it to him. I mean, are they doing an LA Rams where, when they went out and got Matthew Stafford and those other guys, all to win the Super Bowl, and it worked out? That's kind of looks like what they're kind of trying to do here. I'm not saying Florida State's going to win the national championship, but for 1 year, 2023, they got a squad. They got a squad. I mean, you take a look at Clemson. Clemson. If you've been paying attention to Clemson, man, if you're a college football fan and you've been paying attention to Clemson, you've seen the cracks in the concrete, right? You've seen the foundation shaking ever since Trevor Lawrence left. If you're paying attention, you've seen it. Everything gets blamed on the quarterback position, how they struggled since Trevor Lawrence left, and that's pretty fair. But there's other issues at Clemson as well. But if let's talk quarterback. We're talking Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik was a freshman last year, got in season kind of late in the year. And I'm going to be honest, Cade Klubnik looked like a freshman to me. I mean, you guys tell me if you saw different, because he looked like a freshman to me. Does that mean he's not going to take a step forward and be a lot better this year? Yeah, I think freshman to sophomore year, these guys, if you're a good player, you're going to take a step forward, sure. But, I mean, did you guys see something in it? Because I didn't see it. I'm not saying he can't be good, but I damn sure didn't see it. But Clemson still has good players. I mean, they got really good wide receivers. Will Shipley, I think you could say Will Shipley might be the best overall player in the ACC. I think he should get the ball way more than he does. He got a really good backup to him, Phil Maffa, so I get that. But Will Shipley's a really good player. They got a really good offensive line. Defensively, man, they lost so much up front over the past 2 years. They've lost so much talent up front. You can't say that there's not going to be, somewhat of a drop-off. It just has to be, right? So I look at, you got to have some kind of drop-off there. They still got some guys. Be on the lookout for this guy, Rook Ororo. Announcers love saying his name. If you watch a Clemson game, they love saying this guy's name. Rook Ororo. The guy can wreck. He can ball. He's a really good player. They got Tyler Davis still, also a really good player. So they still got good players up front. Clemson still got a good team. I mean, Clemson's still a team that can compete for the college football playoff, right? Linebacker Barrett Carter, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., good players. This is where I see the issue with Clemson also doesn't get talked about is I didn't see it in the secondary last year. I don't see dudes back there. I think they got cooked at times last year. I think other times that great defensive front bailed them out and had them looking better than what they really were, how they really were playing. And those guys, they got to take a big leap forward because, man, you look at that Florida State-Clemson game, it comes early. I think it's like in week 4. Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman against those defensive back is a huge mismatch right now. It's a huge mismatch right now. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I know the game's in Death Valley, but it's early in the season. A.B. Klubnik doesn't have everything down pat just yet. Clemson's still trying to find itself, and Florida State's kind of like a well-oiled machine at this point because they got all their guys coming back. Man, that could be a pretty fat L right there for Clemson. Moving along with the ACC before I get to the rematch, but pointing out some other things. You take a look at UNC. UNC is all Drake May. I think I talked up Jordan Travis, but Drake May is the best quarterback in the ACC, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He can do it all. He's gonna have to do it all for UNC this year. I know they got some decent running backs on the team, but they lost Josh Downs, a wide receiver. That's gonna hurt. a QB like Drake May, who's an NFL quarterback, can still make it work. So, I'm still expecting him to have a good year. But he's going to have to be carrying that team. There's going to be a lot of shootouts because I don't think that defense is – I think that defense is going to force that offense to be in a lot of shootouts. So, but I've got them here in the top half of the ACC because I think that I think Drake May is still good enough to pull these shootouts out. So, moving on, Duke. Man, you look at Duke and you're like, man, what is this guy talking about? Man, this guy talking about Duke. 3rd and 23, talking about Duke. This is in basketball, right? And don't sleep on Duke. Duke got a squad, man. Duke has a team, and week 1 they play Clemson in Wallace Wade Stadium. Now Duke is probably not a tough home field advantage, right? It's probably not a tough road venue to go to. But week 1, you could probably see the school hyping up the game, rallying the school, getting the fans riled up to maybe support the team, saying we got a good year, which they do have a good team. And they might pack that house against Clemson. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Clemson's looking at the name Duke and thinking, oh, man, we're about to run right through this. We're stomping a mud hole in this team. I'll tell you right now, they're going to be in a world of hurt if they think they can go through the motions. Riley Leonard at quarterback, he's for real, man. Riley Leonard's good, man. Running back, Jordan Waters, Jacquez Moore, got good collection of running backs. Sneaky good at wide receiver. Jalen Calhoun, Jordan Moore, sneaky good at wide out. Offensive line, Graham Barton, Jacob Monk. You guys listen to this, probably thinking, man, who's he talking about? Graham Barton? Go take a look at some mock drafts. Go check out some mock drafts. A lot of people got Graham Barton going round 1, first pick. Not first pick, but a first rounder, right? I'm not just here blowing smoke. He's defensively, Dwayne Carter, man, baller up front, man. Now that secondary can be had. That secondary couldn't cover a bed with a bed sheet. They can't cover at all. So, they have the issues, but don't sleep on Duke. I think they're gonna have a really good year. Looking around, let's take a look at Miami. As far as Miami goes, the Miami fan base, they probably want to talk about, man, this our year. Man, maybe not necessarily, right? Tyler Van Dyke. Man, I called it on him. Man, I saw Tyler Van Dyke in 2021. I'll be honest, man, I didn't come away impressed. We go into the preseason of the 2022 season, and I see people saying he's a mock draft first-round pick. I said, what? Man, what game did they watch, man? You watching tape? What are you watching? No way. So 2022 regular season comes, man, of course, 3rd and 23 right on the button because Tyler Van Dyke was struggling last year. He was struggling. Now, if you watch more of the tape and I could see, some things, man. He's big. I think he's like 6'4", 225. He good arm, good accuracy. I don't see first-round draft pick, but I see a draft pick, right? Miami's problem is around them. Running backs, some nice college backs, right? Henry Parrish, nice college backs. And some next-level guys there. Wide receiver. There we go, Colby Young. I saw Colby Young last year, right? He had his moments. I'm going to give him that. He had his moments. But here we go again. Miami Hurricane fans trying to stuff down our throats the next great Miami Hurricane wide receiver. It hasn't happened since forever. I'm thinking all the way back to Ryan Moore when they try to stuff these receivers down our throat. Like, no, these guys aren't that dude. They're not. Colby Young, like, let's see. Let's see what he does this year. He's going to be the primary receiver there. Yeah, I'm not ready to anoint him. I'm just saying that. And that Miami offensive line, man, it's just been a struggle to get players up front for them. Defensively, though, look, Leonard Taylor's a real deal. He's one of the best defensive players in the ACC. That's legit NFL player right there. He's a stud up front. And that kind of rounds out what I want to talk about in the top half of the conference. You look in bottom half, just real quick. I feel bad for Dino Babers, man. I feel bad for Dino Babers coming off a bad year, and I don't see an improvement in sight, right? I think he's a good coach, but it's not a school that you can really recruit top shelf players. So you lose a Sean Tucker at running back, and now you're like, man, what are we going to do? Yeah, you got a Ronnie Gaston the second. He can ball. But, I mean, you just got a tight end. You need some other players. Defensively, just look at their team defensively. They play hard, but they're small, man. They're small. They don't look like a team big enough to play defense in the Power 5. That's what their players look like, So I think it's going to be a rough go for Syracuse this year, and I have them going ahead and taking last in the ACC. Now we get to the conference championship game, and I like Clemson to beat Florida State in the rematch. I think Florida State's going to win the first game. But I like Clemson to beat them in the rematch, and the reason why is because if Cade Klubnik is that guy, right, he's going to have a whole season under his belt by that point. So by that point, you're looking at a different Cade Klubnik. You're looking at a different team. And I think that's going to be enough to be able to put them over the top, because don't get it twisted. If you're thinking, like, if you're like a fan of Florida State since the 90s and you're thinking, man, we're back, man, no, not really that back. You're going to have a 1-year run this season. I'll give you that. But don't think you don't got cracks in the armor either. That Florida State defense can be had. Running, throwing, whatever. If you have a good enough offense, you're moving the ball on them. Don't think that's a brick wall. Don't think it's a 90s defense that's putting all this kind of heat on the quarterback and nobody can move the ball. No. That's not what you're going to see this year from Florida State's defense. But that offense is going to be so explosive, they're going to be dropping 40 burgers on a lot of teams. So, that's going to, you're not going to really notice the defense. But yes, because of that, I think Cade Klubnik and the Clemson Tigers definitely pull it out for the ACC championship game, and Clemson will be the winner of the conference there. So that wraps up the ACC. I want to move on. So give me one moment, and I will bring up the SEC. We talk SEC football. I promise I'll get better at this. All right, so here we go, SEC. All right, well, yeah, you guys can see it. Okay, so SEC, right? You take a look at the SEC, man. I want to talk SEC West first, because you look at the West and you're gonna be like, whoa, hold up. Did I jump into a time machine or something, man? What was this guy talking about? He's sitting here and he got Alabama third in the West. This is 2004 or something. What is he talking about? Man, you guys tell me. All right. Are you guys just slapping Alabama in as the SEC West champ? The AP poll has Alabama preseason number 4. And I'm not saying Alabama's falling off the map, because I think the SEC West is crazy with A&M, Ole Miss, Bama, and LSU. I got Alabama probably finishing around I could see Alabama like around number 11, right? Flirting with the top 10. So I'm not saying they're going away. They're going to still be a really good team. But you guys tell me. Okay, let's take a look. Will Anderson. Will Anderson's a Houston Texan now. You don't think that's going to have an impact on the defense? Oh, man, they got Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is very good. Dallas Turner's first-round pick, but he's not the same kind of first-round pick as Will Anderson was a first-round pick, if you know what I mean. They're just not the same player, right? Go to offensive side of the ball. Running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, a.k.a. college's version of Alvin Kamara last year. He's gone. He's on the Lions. He's gone. Jace McClellan, like I like Jace McClellan. He's good player. Man, not even in the same ballpark as Jahmyr Gibbs. That's why Jahmyr Gibbs came to Bama last year and won the starting job pretty easy. Looked like pretty easily. Not the same guy. That's a downgrade. And I'm not saying Jace is a bad player. That's a downgrade. You got weaker at the running back position. Quarterback. You had former Heisman Trophy winner, first pick of the draft, Bryce Young. He's gone. You can't help but downgrade. And then you're going to is who? I'm assuming it's going to be Jalen Milroe. We saw Jalen Milroe last year against A&M, against Arkansas. Nah, man. He wasn't ready. He could be ready this year. But the fact that went after the Notre Dame's backup quarterback so late in the spring, Tyler Buckner, and I don't know. I don't know if that's a vote of confidence there. So these are downgrades. A few years ago, Alabama had the Slim Reaper Devontae Smith, had Jalen Waddle, had Henry Ruggs, had Jerry Jeudy. Those 4 guys on the same team. Now, you guys tell me right now, who's Ja'Cory Brooks starting over? Come on, man. It's not the same Bama team. It's not the same Bama team. Not to say they're not going to be good. I mean, Nick Saban's going to have a good team always. But it's not the same Bama team. And the fact of the matter is, Ole Miss is better this year than they were last year. Jackson Dart's best quarterback in the SEC. Quinshon Judkins is top 2 running back in America. Absolute monster. Absolute monster. They got to find some receivers to throw to, but in that system with Lane Kiffin coaching, they're going to find some guys for Jackson Dart to get the ball to. Defensively, you might be like, no, Cedric Johnson, sleep on him if you want to. Good football player, man. Sleep on him if you want to. The Ole Miss, they're DeAndre Prince. It's a good corner. Sleep on these guys if you want to. The Ole Miss defense is going to be good enough. They're not going to be brick wall. They're going to be good enough to complement what's going to be one of the most explosive offenses in the conference. Texas A&M. I was back and forth between Ole Miss and A&M who's going to win this division, because I think Aggies, Ole Miss, Bama, and LSU, these guys are going to be beating each other up. It could eventually hurt their chances for the college football playoff, because these 4 teams, they'd win probably just about every conference in America. Just about. I won't say 100% of them, but just about every conference in America, these 4 teams will win. Texas A&M is deep. Texas A&M, I'm starting at looking at defense. They're going to have the second best defense in the SEC behind Georgia. Fidel Diggs, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, McKinley Jackson up front, Chris Russell, Edgerrin Cooper at linebacker, Tyreek Chappelle, Damani Richardson on the back end. They're just deep at everywhere on that defense. Oh, man. I mean, like, these guys got trashed on last year because they have a bad season, but the reality is these guys were babies last year. Watch this year. Watch the jump this year. You guys seen it before. You guys seen young teams come back with a whole bunch of guys and look 100% better, because these are young guys. They needed an extra year in the weight room. They needed an extra year in the system. Offensively, quarterback, right? Max Johnson is still there. I don't know if that's who they're going with. That's who I'd go with. I always liked Max Johnson since he was a QB at LSU. He was a freshman QB at LSU. He's always been a good player, in my opinion. Good arm, big, more mobile than you think. He got banged up last year, so that cost him. So he's a quarterback that Jimbo Fisher could definitely have success with. Connor Wigman was a freshman. Again, another guy who looked like a freshman last year. I didn't see he needs to show me more. I'll put it like that. But Jimbo Fisher knows what he's doing at the quarterback position, so I'm expecting them to get much better production from those guys. And then receiver, who they're throwing to, Moose Muhammad, Evan Stewart. It's the best receiver tandem in the conference, man. I mean, who's stopping these guys consistently, right? So yeah, I'm going with Texas A&M slightly over Ole Miss. There might be some tiebreakers involved there. I think, but I think the Aggies, in some way, some fashion, they end up becoming the West representative in the SEC championship game. And just real quick on LSU, I think LSU's Brian Kelly's a really good coach. I think LSU's still a really good team. You got Mekhi Wingo, on defense. You got Harold Perkins on defense. That back end has to get retooled, though. Offensively, I like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. These are good receivers. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as the great receivers, but these are good receivers. Jaden Daniels got some of the quickest feet you're going to see at quarterback, right? He would make so many plays with his feet, but passing the ball, man, I call it what it is. He can be inconsistent passing the ball, right? Offensive line, though, I think is going to be really good. These guys were really young last year. Will Campbell, Emory Jones coming back. They're going to be much better this season. So LSU, I mean, the other team's going to be a problem. I got them fourth here in the West, but we're talking about – I got them fourth, but we're talking about a team I believe is top 15, right? So that wraps up the West. The East is much simpler. I think Georgia's going to run away with the East yet again. Defensively, man, these guys just keep reloading on defense, man. It's just Smell London, Jason Dumas-Johnson, best linebacker tandem in the country. Just 2 first-round picks right there. Who are just going to wreck this year. Malachi Starks, best safety in America. Ball hawk. He's going to be a ball hawk this year. Up front, Warren Branson, Zion Logue, Nazir Stackhouse. I mean, you can go on and on and on up front. They just out keeping guys fresh, just subbing in and out. Just got ballers all over the defensive side of the ball. So Georgia's going to keep it going defensively. Offensively, how do you replace Stetson Bennett? Stetson Bennett, he wasn't the most talented quarterback, but, man, he had the intangibles, right? He had the moxie. And sometimes the more talented quarterbacks don't have that. So does Carson Beck have that? Man, we don't know. We haven't seen. You got to see if this season coming up is going to be our first kind of peek into that. But he's going to have help. Dejon Edwards at running back. Watch this guy take off this year. Watch Dejon Edwards take off this year. He's going to rock. Brock Bowers at tight end. Best player in America? Maybe, right? Probably. I mean, if you said Brock Bowers if you took Brock Bowers first overall in the 2024 NFL draft, man, I'm not even gonna sneeze at you. And you're like, man, it's a tight end. You take tight end number 1, man. It's Travis Kelce coming back. I mean, you got a sure thing right here. Nobody can hold him. Receiver also, you got Ladd McConkey, really, really underrated player. And the offensive line, Cedric Van Pran, Tate Relish, these guys are back. They're going to be good offensively. They're going to be great defensively. Georgia's going to run away with this East. Tennessee's going to slip a little compared to last year because they lost Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt. You can't help but fade a little, but they still got Brew McCoy, great player at wideout, big time. Defensively, Omari Thomas up front is going to be really good for them. Tyler Barron's going to be really good this year. So they got guys. I mean, they're going to still be a good team. It's not going to be as a great team like they were last year. I kind of splitting hairs, too, with them in Kentucky because I think Kentucky's right there with them. Real quick on the Wildcats, they got a running back that transferred there, Ray Davis. He was at Vandy last year. Nobody knows about him because Vandy's, not any good. You're like, Ray Davis, who's that? Man, Ray Davis running hard. Ray Davis runs hard. He's a perfect fit for what Kentucky does, and now he's on a better team, better players around him. Expect him to have a good year for the Wildcats. I don't think with Chris Rodriguez leaving, I don't think it's going to be they're going to miss a beat. I think he fits that system perfectly. The Gators, man, the Gators are going to rebuild this year, man. They're rebuilding. I don't know what I don't know what they're doing in terms of passing the ball this year. They went out and get Graham Mertz coming from Wisconsin. This guy's used to handing the ball off, right? The best thing you can say about Graham Mertz over 3 years starting at Wisconsin is that he's inconsistent. And he's had some stinkers, right? Now it comes with Florida. Again, we got a good running. We're gonna have a good running team. Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, these guys are for real. These are real backs. We're gonna have a good offensive line for them to run behind. But passing the ball, man, it's gonna be a lot of play action going on. We'll just put it to you like that, and we'll be. I think the Gators will be offensively challenged when it comes to passing the rock. So they're gonna have to win some grinded out football games. They're gonna have to control the clock, and that's how they're gonna have to play football this year. Their defense is like a mirror image of them. Up front, man, they're big. They got some big bodies up front. Florida's stuffing the run this year. You're going to see it. They're stuffing the run this year. But the secondary, yeah, Jason Marshall is, he's good. He's going to have one position. I'm not saying he's shut down, but he's good. Man, who else is on the back end? So that's a huge question mark there. So that kind of wraps up those two divisions. I want to talk about this SEC title game. I got Georgia over A&M, but don't be surprised if that's a dogfight too, because I think those are the two best defenses in this conference are going to go at it, and it's going to be a war. It's going to be a war. But I got Georgia coming out on top. So that's going to wrap up the SEC. So I want to continue moving right along. And let's move on to, let's talk Big Ten. So just give me one moment, please. And I will pull up what I think the Big Ten is going to look like this year. Certainly need to figure out like some graphic visual ways, right, of showing all of this, but it's all good. So here we go with the Big Ten. Been in the news a lot lately too about it. We're talking about conference expansion. But let's start out with the East, because the Big Ten East is similar to the SEC West when we're talking about just a really, really tough division to pick, because you got some really, really good teams there. And here's the top three in Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Just really, really good up there at the top of the East. We're talking about three of the, I would say, top 10 teams in America. And how do you pick between them? Essentially, I had to go with Ohio State because they're going to have the most explosive offense in America, right? You got Marvin Harrison Jr. Another guy, you got Brock Bowers, I know, but at Georgia, but he could go number one. You got Amika, his running mate, who is probably, you can make the argument, he's the second best wide receiver in America, right? Julian Fleming, wrapping it up as in that trio, Julian Fleming is the number one wideout on like 120 other schools in America. They're just loaded. That's that wideout. Running back. You got Mayan Williams. You got Trevion Henderson. Two guys who are, both of those guys, one of them is the backup. You can call it 1A, 1B if you want. You make a list of the top 10 running backs in America. Both of those guys are on the list. Offensive line needs some retooling, yeah. And then, of course, the big question is at quarterback. But when's the last time Ohio State had bad quarterback play? And they got blue chippers. Kyle McCord, for example, they got blue chippers ready to step in with a Lamborghini basically to drive. Nah, man. I had to go with Ohio State. Defensively, Tommy Eichenberg at linebacker. Man, he's gonna have he's gonna have people thinking Andy Katzenmoyer, James Laurinaitis. He's gonna have a great year. Michael Hall Jr., first-round draft pick, definitely, right? But Ohio State's got dudes. Steel Chambers, they got dudes. on defense, where the defense is going to be, I think, really good, and the offense is going to be unbelievable. With this type of schedule Ohio State typically plays, I expect to see some 40 and 50 burgers out there. Now, that said, Ohio State plays a pretty tough schedule this year with Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Notre Dame. So they got some landmines that they got to get over. Michigan, J.J. McCarthy, I think, is going to make a big step forward and show that he's just a real, I don't want to call him a game manager. I call him like a really good game manager. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He will try to go down the field some, but he just is a smart quarterback who can move that offense. Blake Corum and Donovan, man, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his last name. Donovan Edwards. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, outstanding running back tandem. And then defensively, they still got guys who are good up front. Chris Jenkins, Jalen Harrell. They got guys up front that are good enough to certainly keep them in the hunt of the college football playoff and the Big Ten title. Penn State, everybody's talking Penn State this year like, man, this is all year. This is all year. And I got them third, but I think they're one of the 10 best teams in the country. Just Ohio State and Michigan just a little better. They're going Drew Allar, I believe he's pronounced his name, at quarterback. Former 5-star blue chip quarterback. About to step in and take over and try to be the guy who brings Penn State back, right? Because they got other guys, man, at running back. Katron Allen. Katron Allen. Nick Singleton at running back. Some great young stud running backs right there. Keandre Lambert at wide receiver. Big Olu on the O-line. They got one, maybe the best offensive lineman in the country, and Olu Fashanu. Penn State offense is going to move the ball. It's all up to Drew. He got what it takes to be able to move the ball. We haven't really seen him get that opportunity. Now we're going to see it. Defensively, though, Penn State is serious, right? Chop Robinson, Curtis Jacobs, Abdul Carter. Hey, Kalen King at corner. Watch out for him. He's about to take another step and look like one of the top corners in the country. Top to bottom D-line linebacker, secondary. Penn State's loaded on defense, so that's gonna have them in every game, right? But I don't know if they might be missing just enough offensively to get over the Ohio State hump. So that's wraps up the East. And the West, I think Wisconsin is going to pretty much waltz through this division. Luke Fickell, great hire. And he immediately went into making a massive overhaul of the Wisconsin system. This is going to look real different. There's going to be a lot of passing the ball now at Wisconsin. The ground and pound era might have come to an end. And, sometimes there's a transition period when it comes to that. But he went out to the transfer portal. He got a lot of guys, too. And I think that passing the ball, Kamir DK, I could be pronouncing his first name incorrectly, but they went out and got Bryson Green from Oklahoma State at wideout. Those two at receiver. Those guys are going to go off in this new system. You still got Braylon Allen at running back. I don't know if he's going to be used as much as he was last year, but he's a really good running back, so you can lean on him. Offensive line is still going to be really good. Tanner Ortolini, Jack Nelson, Trey Wedwig. They got guys up front, so they're going to have a good O-line. They're going to have a good offense. They got Tanner Mordecai at quarterback, who transferred in over from I want to say that Mordecai came in from SMU. Could be wrong there. But, no, I'm right. Yeah, Tanner Mordecai coming in from SMU. So he used to passing the ball a lot, got a lot of experience. He's going to fit into this offensive system. Defensively, Wisconsin still got some dudes on defense too. Wisconsin always got guys on defense. James Thompson, C.J. Goats, Rodas Johnson up front. You know, Jake Chaney. Wisconsin has guys, right? So they're going to be really good. They're going to. I actually have Wisconsin also. Let's say you'll see this later on, but I actually have them one of the 10 best teams in the country as well. So the rest of the West just isn't going to be able to do enough. Iowa's not going to be able to score enough, but they have a great defensive front. Illinois is going to take a step back with the running back loss. Chase Brown, right? Need a new quarterback. Purdue's got some coaching. Purdue and Nebraska coaching changes. Minnesota just doesn't have really any talent. And Northwestern, we know what just happened there. Pat Fitzgerald getting fired, so they're it's kind of like a lost season. So the Big Ten title game, I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin. I think Ohio State's better than Wisconsin, but I think it's going to be a good game and two really good teams going at it. So that's going to wrap up the Big Ten. So now let's move on to the Big 12. So as we continue to move right through this preview. All right. So here we go, Big 12. Big 12 is a pretty easy conference to to talk about. It's basically Texas and everybody else. Texas is the best team, hands down, in this conference. It's not even really up for debate, right? They're the best team in this conference easily. The only way Texas doesn't win this conference is if they do Texas things and lose to teams they shouldn't be losing to. Quinn Ewers at quarterback is about to take the next step and look like to show everybody why he was the number one ranked recruit. Xavier Worthy is the most explosive player in America, right? Jordan Whittington is good enough to start at like 100 other schools at wideout as well. Jatavian Sanders is an X factor at tight end, right? Defensively, Jalen Ford is about to take that next step into becoming probably the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, Ryan Watts at corner is going to probably be the best corner in the Big 12. They've got the best talent in this conference. It's not even close. Do I expect Texas to do Texas things? I do. I think they're going to go 12-1 if you count the Big 12 title game. And they're going to lose to somebody they shouldn't. But I think they're going to, for the most part, they're going to run over this conference. I don't know if Steve Sarkisian is that guy to do that Texas things kind of thing. I think he's going to get these guys right. I think these guys are going to work some of these teams. Oklahoma, you see them, I got it getting second. You know, I'll be honest, when I was looking at doing my research, I was like, man, Oklahoma, you know, Vegas odds had their future over-under wins at 9.5. And I said, what, man, hell nah, man. Oklahoma, really? Oklahoma's going to stink. Man, go over there and take a look at Oklahoma's schedule. Cupcakes. Cupcake City, man. I like Dylan Gabriel, and I don't love Dylan Gabriel, right? Jaleel Farouk, good wide receiver. Not a great wide receiver. You know, they made some transfer moves. Bothroyd out of Wake Forest up front. DeJoun Terry from Tennessee up front. Paired that with Ethan Downs, Reggie Grimes. Kind of got something up front there. Okay. But they really don't have enough, especially in the secondary. That secondary was getting cooked. Man, that was like the 4th of July out there where there was barbecues going on last season. They don't got it in the secondary. TCU, Bud Clark, Abe Kamara, Demonic Williams, who else on? Jamoy Hodge. They got guys on the defensive side of the ball at TCU that's going to keep them in just about every game. The problem for TCU is going to be offensively. How do you replace Max Duggan? I mean, that kind of leadership, that kind of playmaking that position, how do you replace that? Quinn Johnson at wide receiver, how do you replace that? Anytime you needed to play, he made it to keep you going, to keep drives going, to get you back in the games. Kendra Miller at running back, gone. How do you replace that? This guy was averaging like 8 yards a carry or something. How do you replace that? I don't know if TCU can. Not next season at least. And so that's going to be kind of they're going to fade pretty hard, I think, offensively. Um, and keep in mind, when you're looking at this, Oklahoma, TCU, Baylor, Kansas State, I got these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they all finish with the same record, right? There's going to be a lot of beating up there because they're all, I think, roughly around each other and several levels lower than Texas. Baylor, I like Baylor's deep. They got a lot of good athletes on the defensive side of the ball. It's played by T.J. Franklin. They got some good athletes on that side of the ball. I like what Dave Aranda has done there. Offensively, Blake Shapen, to me, is a definition of what I would call a game-managing quarterback, which can be good, right? I don't know if he can carry these guys in games when they need him to carry them, but he's good. They got a good collection of receivers and running backs. Kansas State, Deuce Vaughn, he's out, so I don't know. It's going to look kind of bleak for them. I mean, they should still finish in the top half of this Big 12 because, quite honestly, the Big 12 is weak. Is weak. I got Oklahoma State in the bottom half. That team, I don't know. I'm not gonna say this is the beginning and the end of Mike Gundy, but this might be one of those blip seasons where they're gonna. I think Oklahoma State's gonna stink. I love Colin Oliver though. Right. By the way, I know I said Jalen Ford, Defensive Player of the Year for the Big 12, but that's only because I expect Texas to be so great. Colin Oliver is the actual best defensive player in the Big 12. All right, he's legit. It's just the rest of the team needs work. And as you see at the bottom there, I got these 4 teams: Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and UCF. If you don't know, they're in the Big 12 this year. I don't know if that's going to be the case going forward because we don't really know yet how the landscape is going to completely shake out. But for the 2023 season, those guys are in the Big 12, and I think they're going to have a rude awakening to playing Power 5 football every week. And then the Big 12 title game, I got Texas rematching OU from the Red River rivalry. I think Texas probably is going to smack OU in the Red River rivalry, and I think they're going to smack them in the Big 12 title game. And Texas should pretty easily win the Big 12 conference. So that's going to wrap up the Big 12. Let's finally get over to the Pac-12. All right. Pac-12 is I guess you can call this the swan song season for the Pac-12. These guys are, if you've been living on the rock, Pac-12 is pretty much dead after this year. So this, in our final season, this is what the Pac-12, I believe the Pac-12 is going to shake out. And it's pretty much going to be your usual suspects. It's going to be nothing too surprising. I see the top half of this conference. I see, as far as the regular season goes, regular season standings, I see Oregon finishing at the top. Let me be very clear. This is like splitting hairs between Oregon, USC, and Utah. Very difficult to pick between those 3. Schedule played a big part of me determining how I was going to pick this. I'm going to go with Bo Nix in Oregon. If you want to go with Caleb Williams in USC, I won't argue with you because both these teams are going to win double-digit games this year. All right. And then Utah right there with Cam Rising and that defense is always good. Michael Bernard at running back. It's just tough. It's just tough. I'll say this, man. USC, Caleb to Mario Williams. Man, watch out for Mario Williams this year. I'm not going to say he's going to break out because he kind of already broke out last year. Man, Mario Williams, watch how explosive he is. You're going to see Mario Williams on Saturday night highlight shows damn near every week. Just tune in for that. The USC defense, though, it still isn't there. It still isn't there. And then determine the schedule. I was just like, man, you know what? I'm going to go with Oregon. I'm going to go with Oregon this year. As far as in the regular season. Washington, that's a team a lot of people like to pick right now. It's a popular team to pick. I think they're going to have a really good offense still. I think they got some good players on defense. Braylon Trice, right? Michael Penix is leading the offense at quarterback. Good players. Dylan Johnson was actually a sneaky good pickup at running back to transfer in from Mississippi State. I like that pickup. I like their team. They have a good team. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think they're going to have quite enough to handle those three teams. I believe they have a really tough schedule, too, as far as road game schedule in the Pac-12. What else here really want to point out? Man, taking a look at the bottom, man. Take a look there at Stanford. Man, Stanford's going to stink, man. Stanford's going to stink, man. Man, what a change of his program over the last 15 years or so. Man, that's going to be a bad football team. And then Coach Prime at Colorado. I know he's made a lot of moves there, a lot of transfer moves. I don't think they still got everything they need, right, to compete yet with the top half of this conference. But and actually, they're going to the Big 12, so it won't even matter. But I think he's gonna do. I think he's gonna do really good things at Colorado, and I'm looking forward to seeing that over the next few years. And then this Pac-12 title game, I'm gonna go with USC over Oregon. So while I have Oregon win the regular season in a one-game shot with all the marbles on the line, I'm going with Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. Just damn, I see them pulling it out and USC winning the Pac-12 championship in the Swan Song season. All right, and that wraps up the Pac-12. The rest, I'm just going to talk out. I don't have anything to put on the screen. But as far as some national kind of predictions, first let's talk Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I got them going 9-3 this year. I think they got a strong team. I really like Sam Hartman pickup at quarterback. He's going to get that team moving, that offense moving. I think they're missing some weapons on the outside. I think he had better weapons on the outside at Wake Forest than he does at Notre Dame. But still, with that defense and that running game, that offensive line, they've got enough there. I think they have a good, strong season. I think 9-3 is a strong season. I kind of think that's what Notre Dame's gonna pull out. If we're talking, I always like to do this, most overrated, most underrated teams. And I base it, let me be clear, I'm basing this strictly off the preseason AP poll, right? Most overrated team coming this season is, for me, it's Alabama. They got them ranked number 4. I think the rest of the AP is pretty good. I mean, I would probably reorder some of the teams, but Alabama number 4, that's a little too high for me. I don't think they're going to finish the year, at least regular season, before bowl game, because nobody plays bowl games anymore, so you really, can't really count those sometimes. Before bowl games, I could see Alabama finishing number 11, right? I'm going to have them just outside the top 10, right? They're not, like I said, they're not going to fall off the map. I think I got them just outside the top 10. Most underrated team, I would say, you probably could tell, is Texas A&M. If I pick two teams, I would pick Texas A&M and Ole Miss, because both of those teams are like number 22 and number 23. And I think both of those teams are going to probably finish in the top 7, right? So, but yeah, if I had to pick one, I'm just going to say A&M because I'm picking them to win the West, right? And I think one of the biggest storylines we're going to have this season is actually going to be the SEC West, because it's going to be crazy with Ole Miss, A&M, LSU, and Alabama, all potential top 10 teams duking it out all these weeks. And with the other teams in the West, too, who aren't really slouches either, right? To get out of the West with only 2 losses is going to be pretty difficult to accomplish, and I wouldn't be surprised if the West champ had 2 losses before the SEC title game. Heisman finalists, man, I like to go way out there with this because sometimes it's way out picks. Last year, Caleb Williams was kind of an easy pick, though, to pick in the preseason. But I got Caleb Williams going back to New York. I got Marvin Harrison Jr. joining him. I think Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss joins them. But my winner, and I'm going out there, but I'm going with Xavier Worthy because I think he's the biggest playmaker in the country. I think he's going to be there. I think they're going to find all kind of ways to get him the ball. And I think that I think he comes home with the trophy. Kind of an out there pick, but that's what I'm going with. So college football playoff, right? So these are my contenders. I got 10 teams that I think can actually contend for the college football playoff. I think in the SEC, right? Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. In the Big 12, Texas. In the Big 10, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And then ACC, I think Clemson and Florida State. I don't think anybody in the Pac-12 is going to be contending for the college football playoff, or is going to be really legitimately considered, right? So out of those 10 teams, And with all these big teams, breaking in new quarterbacks, seems like the perfect opportunity for someone to get into the college football playoff that's not usually there. Because, Ohio State's breaking a new quarterback, Bama new quarterback, Georgia new quarterback, Clemson new quarterback. The usual suspects are breaking in new teams. So can somebody pull a TCU this year? I think so. And while I would never call them a TCU, my number 4 seed for the college football playoff is going to be the Texas Longhorns. I think, you think Texas, you think great football, but they haven't had a lot of great national success. They got far away the best team in the Big 12. They got a pretty easy schedule outside of the game against Alabama. They'll probably do the Texas thing and lose a game they shouldn't. But I think Big 12 champs going 12-1, and assuming they beat Alabama. If they don't beat Alabama, I think they run the table in the Big 12. But 12-1 Big 12 champs, I think they get the 4 seed. 3 seed, I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines. I think they're going back to the playoff. I think their schedule is so cake. If you when you get a chance, go take a look at the schedule. Ridiculously easy. They should be 9-0 when they go to Happy Valley in November. 9-0. I mean, it's cake. And they're a good team, but it's cake. They probably go 1-1 against Penn State and Ohio State, and at 11-1, I think they're going to get the 3 seed. My 2 seed is Georgia. They're going to the SEC, and you can't have a college football playoff without the SEC champ. That's not a real playoff, right? The defense is crazy. The offense isn't going to be consistent enough to go undefeated, but they're going to be really good. I think somebody gets them during the regular season, but 12-1 SEC champs, they're in the playoff. And then my number 1 seed, probably could already tell, it's going to be the Ohio State Buckeyes. Their schedule is crazy, and I don't have them going undefeated because that schedule is crazy. But I think a loss with that kind of schedule is going to be forgiven. I think they're dropping 40, 50 burgers on at least half the teams on their schedule, and I think they get the 1 seed. And just quick aside to the other teams that I mentioned that have contenders we're not getting in and reasons why. I think Fickell is great at Wisconsin, but they got an adjustment to the new office that's going to cost them. I think the SEC West carnage is going to hurt Texas A&M and Ole Miss. So the West winner is going to need to win the SEC title to get in, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Florida State and Clemson are going to split this year. I think Clemson probably drops the regular season game but wins the ACC title game, which basically eliminates Florida State. And I think Clemson probably drops a game probably during the season 2 to somebody else because I don't think they're going to be that strong anyway. Or, I don't think they're going to be strong enough anyway to just go like 11-1 or something like that with just the loss of Florida State. And Florida State is probably losing the opener to LSU anyway. And then Penn State, I think just finishing 3rd in the division is going to eliminate them. They're not going to put a 3rd-place team in the college football playoff. And then my CFP, I got Ohio State over Texas, Georgia over Michigan, and your national championship, I'm not picking a 3-peat, man. I'm going Buckeyes over Georgia because they should have got them last year. But that basically wraps up my preview, my predictions. Like I said, I'm going to be, during the season, I'm going to be doing this weekly for weekly predictions. I'll also have an NFL preview, and I'll even touching on fantasy football. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoy the content, please like, follow, or subscribe. And look out for the YouTube link, which you'll see here in the next screen. You'll see about the link to the YouTube channel, and hope you have a good rest of your night.